For this sweater, I'll be using 3 colors and 2 crochet hooks, a 4.5 and a 5mm hook, a measuring tape, a pair of scissors, and a darning needle. I can't find mine, but you'll definitely need it. The yarn I'm using is 100% acrylic. It recommends 4 to 5mm hook, and it's bulky yarn, size 5. Okay, but you can use any color of your choice. You can decide to use only one color. That's all up to you. So let's get started with this tutorial. Start with the 4.5mm hook. I'm going to make a slip knot. And you're going to chain 11. Once you have your 11 chains, you're going to single crochet into the second chain from hook, make a single crochet, and then single crochet into all the other stitches across. In total, you should have 10 stitches. You should have 10 stitches at the end of your first row. You're going to chain 1 and turn your work towards your left hand. And now the second row, we are going to be single crocheting into the back loops only, and that will give us a very nice ribbing. Since the sweater is made from bottom up, we are making the ribbing. So you're going to single crochet into the next stitch in the back loop only, single crochet into the next loop, and you're going to single crochet all the way to the last stitch, and in total you should have 10 stitches. Make sure to count your stitches to be sure, so you don't have less. Chain 1, turn your work, and you're going to repeat just what we did before. In the back loop only, you're going to single crochet, and in the next stitch, single crochet, and into the last stitch, make sure you put in a single crochet. Chain 1, turn your work again, and you're going to repeat the same thing. In the back loop only, make a single crochet, nine and 10. Chain 1, turn your work, and this is what is going to be on repeat until you have the size of the ribbon that we need. Since I'm making a size medium, I'll make 20 inches. Okay, Once you have your ribbing, make sure it measures 20 inches if you're making the same size as mine, and that will be 66 rows of single crochet. At this point you should have something looking like this, and we're going to be changing our hook from the 4.5 to the 5mm hook. Okay, and we're going to be working single crochets along the edge of this ribbing. You're going to chain one, and you're going to single crochet into that first stitch, and then you're going to continue making single crochets along the edge of your ribbing to the end of the row. You'll just go in with one single crochet into each stitch across, and I'll meet you at the end of this row. I'm at the end of my row, and make sure you don't leave out that last stitch. You're going to chain one, and we'll turn our work. So from here on, we're going to be working with an even more stitch. Okay, into that very first stitch, okay, you're going to put in a slip stitch. That's going to be our first. And then into the next stitch, you're going to put in a half double crochet, slip stitch into the next stitch, and half double crochet into the next stitch, slip stitch into the next stitch, and half double crochet into the next. You're basically going to be alternating between slip stitches and half double crochets. You start with a slip stitch and end with a slip stitch. Okay, so we placed our half double crochet. The next stitch will be a slip stitch, half double crochet, slip stitch, half double crochet, slip stitch, half double crochet, a slip stitch. Okay, continue working keep placing your half double crochets and slip stitches, and I'll meet you at the end of the row. Half double crochet, slip stitch, 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 half double crochet, crochet, and slip stitch into the last stitch. Don't forget to place a slip stitch into the last single crochet, that stitch at the end, and you're going to chain one and then turn your work. Now into that very first slip stitch that we made, you're going to place a slip stitch. So that means a slip stitch goes on top of a slip stitch and half double crochet into the half double crochet. slip stitch in the first slip stitch, and then half double crochet into the next half double crochet. Into the slip stitch, you're going to make a slip stitch, and on top of the half double crochet you make another half double crochet, slip stitch into the slip stitch, and half double crochet on top of the half double crochet, slip stitch and half double crochet. So basically you're going to be slip stitching in the slip stitches you made from the previous row, and then half double crochet on top of the half double crochets you made in the previous row, and that's going to be the repeat of our pattern. Slip stitch and half double crochet, half double crochet, slip stitch. So go ahead and finish this row, and I'm going to show you one more time in the next row. Coming to the end of my row, I'll place my slip stitch into that slip stitch and half double crochet on top of the half double crochet, and then into that slip stitch, the last one, don't forget it, you're going to place in your slip stitch. Remember, whenever you start with your slip stitch, you should end with a slip stitch, okay? And don't forget to chain one at the beginning of each row. After chaining one, you're going to turn your work. You're going to slip stitch into the first slip stitch you made, half double crochet into the half double crochet, slip stitch, half double crochet, slip stitch, half double crochet, slip stitch and half double crochet, slip stitch, half double crochet, slip stitch, half double crochet. And you're going to continue making this pattern until you have the height of the back panel, since we are making this sweater in 4 panels. The back panel should measure 27 inches long, and for the front panel I'll show you what to do when we're making it. You make exactly the same, but then you leave some inches out, since we have to shape the neckline. Like I said before, I'm using 3 colors, so I'll be changing the colors according to my preference. You can do the same or just make yours plain. And once I'm done with my back panel, I'll be back to show you how it will look like, and then we move on to making the front panel. So this is my back panel, and it measures 27 inches. Now what you're going to do is you're going to make the front panel exactly the same as the back panel. The only difference is you're going to work up to like 22 inches long, then we shape the neck. here's my front panel. I made up to 22 inches long, and now we are going to be shaping the neckline. If you can notice, I placed stitch markers, and my neckline is measuring 7 inches. Okay, so what we're going to do is we are going to work on this side, and then we'll work on the other side as well, making sure we're not working in the middle, because this is going to be our neckline. I ended on this side, so I'm going to be turning my work. I already chained one. Since I'd already chained one, I turned my work, so now I'm going to go into that slip stitch with a slip stitch. Half double crochet, slip stitch, half double crochet, slip stitch. Half double crochet, and the last one should be a slip stitch. So I'm going to take out that slip marker, the stitch marker I mean, and I'll make my slip stitch. I'll chain one, and I'm going to turn my work again. And you're going to continue with the pattern just like before. Half double crochet and slip stitch, half double crochet and slip stitch, half double crochet, slip stitch, slip stitch, half double crochet, half double crochet, and the last stitch should be a slip stitch. You start on a slip stitch, you end on a slip stitch, and that's how the pattern works. Chain one, turn your work, and you're going to continue working back and forth until you have until you reach the 27th inch, until you have 27 inches, just like the back panel. And then when you're done, you'll turn onto this side. I will show you where to begin from once we're done with one side. So I got done with one side. Now I'm going to change onto the other side. What I'll do is I'm going to cut my yarn and secure my work. So I'm going to begin on this side as well. I'll make a slip knot. I'll take out the stitch marker and insert my hook right into that slip stitch, and I'll make a slip stitch. Then into the next stitch I'll make a double crochet, a half double crochet, a slip stitch, half double crochet, slip stitch, half double crochet, and you repeat that until you have the same length like you do on this side. Chain one, and I'll cut my yarn. Okay, so this is how your work should look like. This is going to be our neckline. Now what we're going to do next is we're going to sew the back panel to the front panel. I'll just show you in a bit how you're going to align them together. This is how you put your work, and make sure the right sides are facing each other. Make sure the right sides are facing each other. The front panel on top of the back panel. And once you put them together like this, we are going to be sewing along the sides, up the sleeves here like this. I'll be using my hook. You can also use your darning needle instead of the hook, but I'll be using my hook instead. All right, so I'm going to find that slip stitch right there and the slip stitch on the back panel. I'll grab my yarn and I'm going to pull through. And then I slip stitch. Now you want to find each stitch from both sides, and then you'll slip stitch. That's how I'm going to attach my back panel to the front panel, by slip stitching. You can as well use your needle, your darning needle, like I said before. I couldn't find mine, so I resorted to using my hook. Make sure you don't miss any stitch so that your work is neat and aligned very nicely. And don't forget the last stitch, the slip stitches at the end from both panels. Chain 1 and you'll cut your yarn, and that's how you join. This is the right side. You can see how smooth it looks. And next we're going to be working now on the neck ribbing. For my neckline, I'm going to attach my yarn at one of the corners, and I'll chain 1. So this is going to count as our first single crochet. Then we're going to place single crochets all around the neckline. Into each stitch you'll go in with 1 single crochet. So make sure each stitch gets a single crochet all the way around. I'll meet you back at the end of the row. At the end of the row, I'm going to slip stitch into the first stitch, and now we're going to change our hook. Since we started our ribbings with a 4.5, I'm going to switch back to the 4.5. Now we're going to make the ribbing of the neck. Now we're going to chain 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. And from the first slip stitch, you're going to single crochet into the second stitch from hook. Okay, put your first single crochet and you're going to single crochet all the way down. You should have 5 single crochets. So 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Okay, slip stitch into the next stitch, and into the next stitch. Okay, chain 1, turn your work towards your left, I mean. And you're going to single crochet into the back loops only. So we're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stitches. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Don't forget to place your last single crochet into that stitch. Chain 1, turn your work. Sorry, my slip stitch in the back loop, the next stitch, I mean single crochet, and you are going to continue single crocheting into each stitch in the back loop. Remember your stitches should remain the same. You should have 5 single crochets across, back and forth. One, two, three, four, 5. Slip stitch in the next stitch, and slip stitch into the next, and you chain 1, you turn your work, and that's going to be on a repeat until you go around the neckline. So I'm going to let you do that, and I'll be back once I'm finished. Okay, so I went all the way around with my ribbing, and left with all this gap that I'll have to sew together to complete the ribbing. All right, so I'm just going to do that. You guys can go ahead and sew yours too. The stitches are a bit tight here, but yeah, you need to get around that and sum it up. Okay, and that's it. I'm going to chain 1 to secure my work, and then I'm going to cut my yarn, and that's it for the neck. Next we're going to be working on the sleeves. Okay, so we are done with our ribbing. So if you turn this, if you turn it around, this is going to be your right side. Okay, it's going to be your right side, and we're going to be working on the arms. Now we're going to be working on the sleeves, and I'm going to chain a chain equivalent to 18 inches when stretched. And once you have your chain, I'm just going to measure it here to make sure it is the measurement that I like. Just a moment. Excuse me. Yep. When I stretch it, it's 18 inches. Okay, so now we're going to start working with the pattern I've been working with before. I'm sure you already know how it goes. Into that next stitch right there from the hook, I'm going to place I'll put there my slip stitch, and then my half double crochet, slip stitch, half double crochet, slip stitch, half double crochet. And since you already know the pattern, you're going to continue working alternating between the slip stitches and the half double crochet to the end of the row. So you make sure you end with a slip stitch since you started with a slip stitch. Okay, that's my last stitch, and I ended it with a slip stitch. And that's my first row. The second row, you're going to chain one. You turn your work towards your left, and then you continue with the pattern. In the slip stitch, you place a slip stitch. In the half double crochet, you place a half double crochet, slip stitch, and half double crochet, slip stitch, and a half double crochet. Now I'm going to let you do that. You're going to work a total of when you count the bumps, there should be 5 rows of the bumps on both sides before we can do a decrease. Okay, now we are going to be decreasing our work. I made 1 2 3 4 5 2 3 4 5, should be 5 bumps on each side, both sides. Now I already chained one. As you can see, I'll turn my work into the first stitch. As you know the stitch, you place your slip stitch and half double crochet into the next half double crochet. So now we'll start decreasing from here. Okay, since the next stitch will be a slip stitch, you'll insert your hook through that slip stitch and out from the half double crochet, this slip stitch. And since after the slip stitch it's supposed to be a half double crochet, you'll yarn over and you'll insert your hook through the slip stitch and through the half double crochet, and you half double crochet. There we have decreased 4 stitches. Okay, and then from here you'll continue working the pattern the way it is: slip stitch and half double crochet, slip stitch and half double crochet, slip stitch and half double crochet, slip stitch, half double crochet, now go ahead and work your stitch. You work your pattern until you have 6 stitches left. Then I'll show you again how you're going to decrease at the end of the row. Okay, now I worked my slip stitch. I have 1 2 3 4 5 6 stitches left. After the slip stitch was supposed to be a half double crochet, and now we are going to crochet 2 together like we did from the start of the row. You yarn over, since it's a half double crochet, insert your hook into the half double crochet and come out from the slip stitch, and you half double crochet, and the next one being a slip stitch, insert your hook into the half double crochet, out from the slip stitch, and you slip stitch, and then the last stitch is going to be a half double crochet and a slip stitch. And that's how we do a decrease. Okay, I'm going to chain 1 and I'll turn my work. Now this next row is just going to be the normal most stitch without any decrease. Slip stitch into the first stitch and half double crochet into the next stitch. slip stitch, half double crochet. You work that to the end of the row. Now chain 1. I like to place a stitch marker here so I can keep count of how many I've decreased. Okay, so this is my first pair of decrease. Now I am going to continue decreasing my work until I have a length of 23 inches. Okay, I'm going to show you guys the other sleeve. I'd already made one. Okay, this is the sleeve that I made. I had already made the other sleeve, so I'm just going to show you guys how it should look like. Every after 5 bumps I make a decrease. Every after 5 bumps I make a decrease, and if you can notice, the decrease is very visible. Your work gets it decreases in size as you go. Okay, so you're going to make a decrease until you have a length of 23 inches long plus the ribbing. 23 inches plus the ribbing, and I'm going to show you guys just how I did that. Okay, now I'm going to continue working with this other sleeve as you guys do the same, and then we'll get back when we're ready to make the ribbing of the sleeve, and then we put our sweater together. Okay, so here's my sleeve, and I made a decrease 6 times. Then I made single crochets before making the ribbing. So after making the single crochets, I'm going to change my hook size to the 4.5, and now we can begin working on the ribbing. Okay, so I'm going to chain 11 just like we did for the front and back panel. Okay, so I'll chain 11, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and I'll turn my work towards me. Then into the second stage from the hook, I'll place my single crochet. You guys already know how this works. We'll put single crochets all across. So at the end of this, you should have 10 single crochets. Okay, I have 10 single crochets. I'll slip stitch into that first stitch. I'll leave that first stitch, the first single crochet, and I'll slip stitch into the next stitch, slip stitch into the next, chain 1, and you're going to turn your work. Now we are going to be single crocheting into the back loops only. and you'll have to count your stitches, not to be confused. I like to count them so that I'll be putting my single crochets into the right stitches. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. So you'll place a single crochet into the back loops only, and remember you should only have 10 single crochets all through your work. It's going to be the repeat for your ribbing. Into the first stage you're going to place a single crochet, and you continue placing single crochets all across your work to the 10th stitch. And once you have your 10 stitches, slip stitch into that single crochet you see, the next stitch, and into the next stitch. You chain 1 and turn your work. I'm going to let you do that all the way to the last stitch, okay? Okay, so I'm almost to the end of my row and I have 2 stitches left. I'm going to slip stitch into the first one and into that last one. Then I'll chain 1. I'll turn my work to complete the ribbing. Okay, so I'll single crochet all the way up again. One stitch left. I'll place my single crochet into that last one, and I'll chain 1. I'll pull through, and that's it. Now we are done. So my sleeve measures about 23 inches. Yeah, it measures 23 inches long. Now it's time to assemble our sweater and sew it. First of all, you will want to place your work flat on the floor and attach the sleeves where they're supposed to be. I placed stitch markers in the middle of the sleeves so that I know where to put them. Then you'll want to make sure that your work is the wrong side out when sewing it. You'll attach the sleeves and then you will flip your work over to make sure everything is in place, and then flip it over again to the wrong side, and then you sew the sides, and that will be the last step you'll take to for your sweater to be complete. All right, now I'm going to show you how I am going to attach how I'm going to sew it together. All right, okay, so when attaching the body of your sweater, I'm using the 4.5, so that should work. You're going to be using the slip stitch method for stitching it, or you can actually choose to use your needle. So you get the stitch the close to you, that is close to you, and the further away from you, the front stitch and the back loop on the other side. That's what I mean. Then you want to slip stitch. And you're going to slip stitch all the way to your armpit, and then you continue down to the sleeves. Okay, so I'm going to be doing this off camera, and hopefully you guys got what I meant. I mean, you guys already know what to do. Make sure when you're doing this, you're not doing it too tight or too loose. Okay, we want our work to be secure and at the same time not too stiff. I hope this video was helpful to you guys, and give it a thumbs up if you learned something from it. Share it with your friends who would love to make a sweater like this. Thank you so much for supporting this channel. It means the world to me. See you again in the next tutorial.